What's up, guys? Revolutionary Road here. Welcome back, Raider Nation. Today we're going to talk about the first round of the NFL draft, and we're going to talk about the Raiders and how they did in the first round. We're going to look at the 3 picks that we had. We're going to talk about why maybe we didn't choose to move up, why we didn't move down, why we basically just stayed put in all of our picks. I'm going to talk about why I think we targeted Farrell, why we targeted Abrams. Obviously, I think Josh Jacobs simply just fell to us at 24, and it was basically a no-brainer with Lynch retiring. Now, I made a comment in my last video basically saying that we should target Jacobs. If we can't get Jacobs, then maybe we don't get a running back, and maybe Lynch comes back. I thought that Lynch, if he saw we didn't draft a running back, if maybe he was sitting there and it came to August and we still don't have a number 1 back, I think Lynch would have came back and played in Oakland for the last year. I think that would have been his choice. I think he would have loved to play for Oakland one more time. And so it's kind of sad because this, the drafting of Josh Jacobs means that Marshawn Lynch has retired for good. It means that he will not be coming back into the league. It means that the time that Marshawn Lynch spent with the Oakland Raiders has come to an end. I thank you for everything you did for us. I love you. Everything you've done for the Raiders. You are the epitome of what a Raider is. You stand up for Oakland. You stand up for your city. You stand up for those people that basically just give everything to come see you because they love who you are as a person, as a player, and you do so much in your life to give back, and not only give back, but you just show so much love for Raider Nation and for the fans, but also for anybody, the city of Oakland, anybody that's in the city of Oakland that basically looked up to you. You would go out of your way to show those people love. You would go out of your way to go for bike rides down the street and Twitter, and big it up on social media so you'd have the entire city of Oakland out there with you. You love the city so much that you did everything you could to ensure that you were giving back, not only to the fans, but to the city. And for that, I thank you, Marshawn Lynch, and I bid you nothing but good luck in your further life and everything you do in your social media, in your YouTube, in your kind of own brand that you're trying to create, Beast Mode. I wish you nothing but the best, and I got nothing but love for you, Marshawn. But unfortunately, with the drafting of Josh Jacobs, we will no longer be seeing Marshawn Lynch as a Raider in a Raiders jersey, unfortunately. But that's the way it goes. We need to move on. As I said in my last mock, if we take Jacobs, Lynch is gone, and I think that he retired before the draft because he didn't want to hold us back from taking Jacobs. He wanted us to look towards the future, to be able to get the best running back in the draft. If he fell to us, he did. We took him. That's the way it goes. So I'm going to start this video just by simply going through the picks that we had and by discussing maybe the scenarios and why we didn't trade back or down. So as you see, we had the 4th, 24th, and the 27th pick yesterday in the draft. The one thing that I want to just talk about real quick is why I think we didn't trade back. Obviously, we drafted Clellin Ferrell, 4th overall, edge rusher from Clemson. Now, one of the big things about this pick was people were not necessarily mad at the pick, and just like me, if you go look at my mock draft, what did I say? I said we need to trade back. If we're not going to take Allen, if we're not going to take Williams, at number 4, we need to trade back. And we need to target a guy like Brian Burns or a guy like Clellin Ferrell. We took Ferrell. We didn't trade back. We took him at 4. That is kind of crappy, mainly because of the valuation. It's not because of the player. I love the player. And the more I read into him, the more research I do, I find that we might have made the better pick. That we actually, made the better pick between Josh Allen and Colin Farrell. And here's the reason. He's the safe pick. He's the safe pick. He is a guy that played against better competition in college football. He played against teams like Alabama with offensive tackles like Jonah Williams, who is probably one of the best offensive tackles in this draft. And Clellin Ferrell beat him 9 out of 10. Clellin Ferrell put him on his back 9 out of 10 times, the best offensive tackle in this year's draft, arguably. So that right there is a big, big win for Clellin Ferrell, and why I think he needs to be understood that not only, maybe he didn't have the numbers that Allen had, but he also was playing against a better schools, being in, playing for Clemson as opposed to Duke. So that just shows you right there why I think there's big potential in Clellin Ferrell, because he was already playing against basically pro tackles, pro college tackles, guys like Jonah Williams, Dalton Risner. He basically was able to play against these guys consistently and beat them. So that's why I just want to, talk about the scenarios. Maybe I think what happened was we were sitting there, we wanted to trade back. We were really, really wanting to trade back because we thought maybe we could get this guy, maybe at 8, 9, but we couldn't get any of those teams to trade up. A guy like Detroit, I don't think really wanted to trade up. A team like the Giants, I think because they like Jones, they weren't even going to take Haskins. They had no reason to trade up, right? A lot of these teams, they knew the guys they wanted were going to fall to them, so they didn't have any reason to trade up. You saw like Pittsburgh was the only team that traded up to get Bush because they knew he wouldn't be there when they were drafted. So it just is a big consideration to think that a lot of teams probably weren't giving value. They weren't going to offer us good value for our fourth overall pick. They weren't going to give us a second or a third round pick. They weren't going to give us another second, maybe 2 second round picks or something to move up. They weren't going to give us a second and a third. They weren't. And because they weren't willing to give us that amount of value, we decided to not to not trade back, to just take the guy that we were going to take anyway if we did trade back. So if we were going to trade back to 10, we were going to take Farrell. So we were like, look, we're not going to get the value, and this guy's probably not going to be there at 24, so we're going to take him at 4. It sucks, but it's like I said about Brian Burns. I think that taking a guy that fills a position of need for our team is the best way to go. It's not necessarily the prettiest pick, it's not the most glamorous, but I think it is the safest and it is the best pick we could have made. Now, here's what I want to say about Josh Allen. This is why I want to talk real quick about why I think Colin Farrell is actually a better player, or I should say a more consistent player than a guy like Josh Allen. Now, this is the Draft Network, so they do a lot of analysts and predictions and mock drafts and stuff like that. But one of the things I like is their player profiles, and if you go through them, they have multiple people that do different breakdowns, but they're all pretty similar. But one of the things they talk about with Farrell, just read what it says here. Farrell projects as a high impact defensive end at the NFL level. He is physically capable of exploding out of his 3-point stances, but prefers to win with his hands on blockers as compared to relying on speed. That is completely the opposite of Josh Allen. Josh Allen is much more of a speed rusher. Guy like Clellin Ferrell, I would say he's more like Khalil Mack. He's a guy that relies on relies on power instead of speed. But here's the thing, it's not like he doesn't have speed, right? It's not like he doesn't have speed. He's actually a really good, fast player. I've seen him chase down quarterbacks. I've seen him chase down running backs. I've seen him in playing coverage, chasing down tight ends. He is a quick player. So to say that he doesn't win with speed and he doesn't have the bend maybe that a guy like Josh Allen has, the flexibility to get around the edge, well, neither did a guy like Khalil Mack necessarily coming out of college. He had the bull rush, he had the power, but he had to develop those other skills, and he was already well on his way to doing that when he came to the Raiders, just like Clellin Ferrell is. So as you see, basically in their final sentence, they say an ace run defender. So he is an ace run defender. So we basically got a 3-down defensive end, an edge rusher, 3-down defensive end. Farrell is a 3-down player immediately who should easily step into a starting role. So just simple as that. It's safe. Like as Daniel Jeremiah said about our picks, we basically got 3 starting players. 3 starting players. That's what we got from this draft. You can't be mad at that. You can't be like, oh, why didn't we take this guy or this guy? And I know. I thought we should have taken a cornerback at 27. I'm going to discuss that in a little bit. But taking the best player available, that is the safest pick, that will be probably, the best guy going forward, this is why I think that he's better than Josh Allen. And let's just look at this, okay? Josh Allen has 2 out of 5 stars on the Draft Network. They are not very high on Josh Allen at all. And why? Well, they say basically Josh Allen is kind of like a one-trick pony. Now, I know that when you watch him, you might be like, wow, I don't know where you see this, but it's simple. He just doesn't have the best hands in the amount of counter moves that you need to succeed in NFL level. Like I said, he relies on his speed, so he relies on his speed rush. But for tackles that can get back and defend, that have light feet, which a lot of NFL tackles do, they have the ability to backpedal and to cut you off so you cannot get around the edge. You need to have another move to the inside, or you need to be able to bull rush your way through to the quarterback. This is something that Josh Allen struggles with, and he struggles with mightily. And like I said, Josh Allen played for Duke, which is a great school. Don't get me wrong; they play good teams, but they don't play teams like Clemson plays, and not in the rate that Clemson plays a team like Alabama. Clemson won last year. Their defensive line was the best defensive line in football, and they won. They won the college championship basically by having the best defensive line in football. Three of the defensive line all went in the first round of Clemson. So that just shows you that this team has so much to offer. I'm talking about Clemson to NFL teams. So a guy like Colin Farrell, who went as the #1 lineman off of that line, and he led basically the team in tackles and in pass rush production. It's insane to think that this guy was being overlooked, or that people were projecting Allen as better. And I know I kind of fell into the same trap because I started to look at all the tape of Allen, and I was like, yeah, this guy's great. Look what all the and I kind of failed to look at Farrell tape. And I kind of, once I started to look at Farrell tape more, I started to realize that like Farrell is actually a really, really good player. And I think if he can develop his speed rush to the outside a little bit more, he can be probably a much better player than Josh Allen at the NFL level. So that's all I'm going to say about that, because I need to get on to talking about the next couple guys. So obviously we know we drafted Josh Jacobs. Now I'm not going to say much about Josh Jacobs, and the main reason I'm not going to say much about him is because I think it was a great pick. I think with the retirement of Lynch, like I said earlier, we needed a running back. This is who we got. I can't be happier because I mocked us to take Jacobs. I love him. He's a great player. 41% of all his rushes either went for a first down or a touchdown in 2018. That's phenomenal. So as you see here, they kind of go into his pros and his cons. So the biggest con with him is that he's basically not the fastest guy, and he's not the most balanced guy. That's the biggest thing. He's not the fastest. He's not the most balanced. He might not be able to truck defenders like a Marshawn Lynch, but he has incredible vision. He hits his holes, and he is almost always able to get a first down or a touchdown because of his vision and his ability to accelerate through the gaps. He sees the gaps, he accelerates, and he gets what's given to him, which is phenomenal. You don't need more than that. Like, I love Lynch, don't get me wrong, but if we bring up a guy like Chris Warren III as our power back, as our like maybe goal line back, and we use a guy like Josh Jacobs as our kind of out of the backfield 3-down back when we're all over the rest of the field, just not in the red zone, or even in the red zone, we use him as a pass catching. He was the third best pass catching running back in the league last year. So in the red zone, that is. So that's just one of those things to think about. So I love Josh Jacobs. I think he's a great pick for the Raiders. I wish we would have maybe waited, because I think once the Philadelphia Eagles moved up ahead of us and didn't choose him, I think we could have probably got him at 27. So I think we could have tried to go with maybe a cornerback, DeAndre Baker or something at 24. We could have got maybe a better player. But I digress, and I will simply just talk about what happened with Jonathan Abrams, or why I think Jonathan Abrams is actually a really, really good player, and why we should be glad we drafted him. So I know a lot of people are kind of mad because they're like, oh, why didn't we draft a cornerback? Why didn't we draft a tight end? Why are we drafting, a guy that probably is not going to be the best starting line safety out of this draft class? You know what I mean? A lot of people are arguing that he might not be the best safety. Why did we take him? We could have gotten Nasir Adderley. We could have gotten so many better players. We could have got a quarterback. We don't really need a safety. We got Joyner. We got Carl Joseph. We have good safeties. Well, I'm going to show you an article, and I'm going to show you one of the reasons why I believe John Gruden thinks we actually need 3 safeties and why he wants to run with a 3 safety set. So I'm going to discuss that now. So what do I mean when I say that I think Jonathan Abrams actually is a really, really good fit for the Raiders? Well, it comes down to one thing, and that is scheme. And the fact that I truly believe that John Gruden wants to go with a nickel 3 safety set, so you'd have 2 linebackers and 3 safeties, and essentially the third safety will be covering tight ends. So why would we get a guy like Jonathan Abrams? Well, maybe it's because we want to shut down a guy like Travis Kelce. Maybe we want to shut down a guy like Noah Fant, who was just drafted yesterday by Denver. So we want to take these players like Abrams and put them into a nickel scheme in which we have 3 safeties. So we have Karl Joseph, we have LaMarcus Joyner, and we have Jonathan Abrams. Now, one of the things that I think a lot of people are skeptical about is if Karl Joseph will remain on the team. You know, Karl Joseph was a first-round pick. He hasn't probably been elite as some people thought he should have been. He's not a bad player by any means. I actually quite like him a lot. I like Karl Joseph. He's a hard hitter. I think he's very much quite similar to Jonathan Abrams. I think that if you look at the two side by side, Karl Joseph and Jonathan Abrams are pretty similar. Jonathan Abrams is a bit taller. He's got a bit more height. He's got a bit more build on him, and this makes him a little bit better of a player overall. So, you know, I definitely think that Abrams is going to come in and immediately be an upgrade over Karl Joseph. But do I think that he's going to replace Joseph? I don't think so. I don't think so. Now, we could easily trade Joseph. There could be trade talks of maybe we look to trade Joseph for a second, maybe a third-round pick. That might be something we do. I don't know. I can't be serious, but after I kind of read an article by Bucky Brooks about hybrid nickel secondaries, I really started to question whether we would trade Karl Joseph or if we would simply just build a nickel secondary. So one of the things that he talks about here is how Abrams was a very talented safety, you know, and basically he is more versatile. Or sorry, what he lacks in versatility, he makes up in intensity and high motor. So this is a guy that is basically just all over the field. He has incredible IQ. Some people say his coverage skills are not elite. They're not even that great, but I beg to differ. I've actually seen him make some really good plays in the open field, and I think that he can be a really, really good safety to cover tight ends. And that's exactly what I think this pick was. It's something that reacts, because I think this is the thing. I think if Noah Fant was there at 24, I think we would have drafted Noah Fant at 24, and I think we would have looked to get Jacobs at 27, and then maybe even take a guy like Jonathan Abrams in the second round. But I think that because Noah Fant was gone, and because specifically he went to the Denver Broncos, we need to defend Travis Kelce. We need to defend, you know, Antonio Gates, or there's another Derrick Henry, I think it is, or you know, the Chargers have a really good tight end as well, and now Noah Fant for the Broncos. So almost all the teams we play have really, really good tight ends in our division. So that's 6 games in which we really, really need someone like Jonathan Abrams to cover a tight end so that we're not just getting beat up the middle all day. This is what we've needed for a long time, so I don't know why people are complaining about it, because it's actually a very solid pick. Now, I want to go to the article that I talked about that Bucky Brooks had written. Now, in this article, Bucky Brooks is essentially talking about the kind of hybrid defense that this nickel system has brought into place, and it was originally strategized by the Packers back in '96, and in that year they were able to hold opponents to 13.1 points per game, and they had 26 interceptions against only 12 touchdown passes. So think about that. That was an incredible strategy to basically try to match what offenses are trying to do to build a defense that shuts that down. It's actually very smart. So what is this scheme? What is this, you know, How is it different? Well, it says every team in the NFL utilizes a traditional nickel package, 5 defensive backs instead of 4 featured in base defenses, as a way to better defend against the pass. Typically, an extra corner will come on to replace a linebacker and will align in the slot. So in a big nickel package, the defensive coordinator will instead bring on an extra safety who acts as a hybrid linebacker slash cornerback, while the nickel safety is also assigned to cover tight ends and receivers in the slot. He is a more effective run defender and possesses the size, strength, and length to cover to match up against the league's tight ends, right? The best pass catching tight ends. So think about this for a second, okay? Why did the Raiders take Jonathan Abrams? Because we want somebody that is a hybrid linebacker corner to come in and cover tight ends. Simple. We want to run a 3 safety set. Carl Joseph, LaMarcus Joyner, Jonathan Abrams. Just think about that. Now, that means that one of our linebackers will be sitting out, but that's fine. But one of the things that this article points out that I think is really interesting is right here down towards the bottom where it talks about the best players that fit this scheme. And actually, this was written back in 2014. And look at who they basically think would make the best player in this scheme. LaMarcus Joyner. So Bucky Brooks is saying that the best rookie that will fit this hybrid safety scheme is LaMarcus Joyner. The Raiders picked up LaMarcus Joyner in free agency. The Raiders have Carl Joseph, and now they have Jonathan Abrams. So they have their strong safety, they have their free safety, and now they have their hybrid safety. It's simple. It's simple, and once you understand this scheme and what it was able to do, what this scheme is able to do, if you can effectively utilize players in this scheme, and you can actually basically shut down tight ends. And if we have Garyon Conley on the outside, and maybe we get another cornerback today. So that's one of the things I want to talk about right now, is I want to just talk about kind of what our strategy should be today, where we should be looking today. So one of the things that I think is interesting is that a lot of cornerbacks are still on the board. A lot of these top cornerbacks are still on the board. And one of these guys here, David Long, I love this guy. I'm telling you right now, this guy is an incredible player. And most people have him going in the 3rd, 4th round. David Long. So one of the things I would like if the Raiders, were going to be targeting a cornerback and they don't take one in the 2nd round, I would almost like us to trade back up into the 3rd round and try and get David Long. Target a guy like David Long or a guy like Jimmy Moreland, who will probably be there in the 5th round. So, I should say the 4th round when we pick. So this is one of the things, I think that we can still get a good cornerback in this draft. Even in the 4th round, I still think we can get a guy like David Long. So one of the other things I think is who else should we be targeting today in the 2nd round? So I think that the main targets today need to be so Byron Murphy, which is the 6th best player according to PFF. Greedy Williams and Chase Winovich and Irv Smith. So Chase Winovich, I would say, if we want to solidify our edge rushing position, I know we still got Arden Key and now we have Clellin Ferrell, but if we want to take somebody else, which I actually suggested in my mock that we should double down and take 2 defensive ends, I think we should draft Chase Winovich. I really do. Our 35th overall pick, I think it should be Chase Winovich. But if we feel like we want to go tight end and we want to give Derek Carr another solid weapon, then I think we need to target Irv Smith. And I think that Irv Smith will probably be and then Rock Ya-Sin. So Rock Ya-Sin is the other corner that I think we should target in the 3rd round, or sorry, in the 2nd round. We should target either Rock Ya-Sin or we should target Byron Murphy, and then Irv Smith. So Irv Smith is essentially the 3rd best tight end in the draft, and he will be there in the 2nd round when the Raiders pick. So it's just one of those things where I think that if we target a guy like Irv Smith or a cornerback, I think we can knock this out of the park. This draft, we can knock it out of the park. These can all be home runs. They really can be. solid picks at every position. They're safe picks, sure, but they're solid. And I was just arguing with a lot of people online, and they're all like, "Oh, a lot of these guys are not even projected in the first round. Why are you taking these guys? They're second, third round people. Why, why?" Well, just think of it this way: draft analysts are usually wrong. Think about AB, Antonio Brown. Draft analysts projected him as a sixth round player. Look at Aaron Rodgers, sixth rounder. Look at Derek Carr. Nobody thought he would make it. Everybody thought, oh, second round was even a reach for him. So I think that there's a lot to be said about solid players that are simply fitting a need at your team and can come in and start right away and be impactful. And if we can get 4 of those players in the top 35 picks, then that's a great thing. So everybody that's hating on these picks, I really, really hope you can do some research on these players. You can actually look at these players and see who they are, not just where they were supposedly on player rankings and draft analysts, who a lot of times are wrong. So one of the things that I think people need to do is really look into these players and how they fit our schemes. But like I said, here's Jimmy Moreland here as well, 85th, best player in the draft, and I think he'll be there in the 4th round. So targeting, I don't necessarily think we need to target a cornerback right away. Like I said, I think we can either trade back up into the 3rd round and get a guy like David Long, or we can get a guy like Jimmy Moreland in the 4th round. And if we don't get a tight end, as I said in my mock, I think we need to target Alize Mack and Josh Oliver. So Josh Oliver, I think if we can get him in the 4th round or trade back up into the 3rd and target Josh Oliver, he's a great pass-catching tight end, very big radius, very good at contested catches. I think he'd be great. He's from a small school, San Jose State, so I think that would be a great pick for us today. But other than that, I simply just wanted to let you guys know that I think more work needs to be done to look into these draft picks before you go and freak out. I was freaking out yesterday. I wasn't happy with the picks. A lot of them I'm like, what is happening? Why didn't we take Josh Allen? And then the more I analyzed them, the more I looked at Clellin Ferrell and the more I looked at Josh Allen side by side, the more I saw the upside in Clellin Ferrell and the more I saw the limits of Josh Allen. So these are the big factors of why I have decided to basically do this video and to show you guys that look at what our schemes are, think about the hybrid safety combination, think about what that can do for our team and how we can use that to shut down tight ends. We can shut down Noah Fant, we can shut down Travis Kelce, we can shut down San Diego. And now with the offense that we have, we're really just missing a really solid tight end. We're missing probably a solid cornerback and maybe another defensive end, and our team is solid. Our team is solid. And we have like 5 more picks. And we probably can get another one if we trade up. So just think about that, Should we trade Carl Joseph for another pick? I don't know. What do you guys think? Should we trade Carl Joseph now that we got Abrams? I don't know. I don't think so. I think we keep him. And also, what about Isaiah Crowell? What's going to happen to him? I think Isaiah Crowell is going to get cut before the season starts. I really do. I think we're going to have Chris Warren, Jalen Richard, and Josh Jacobs as our starting running backs. That's going to be the 3. So I want to stop this here. It's going a little long, but I just want to let you guys know that do more research into these picks. Actually think about why we drafted these players and how they fit our schemes and the way we're trying to build our defense to shut down certain positional players that have been killing us for probably a decade now. Antonio Gates and Travis Kelce. We need to shut these guys down. Even like Gronkowski before with the Patriots, right? That's why we brought in Jonathan Abrams. That's why we're going to go to a 3 safety set in a lot of our pass defenses. So that's my opinion. That's what I think. I actually love the pick. What's my overall grade? Well, I gave this draft a B+. That's my grading. Now that can easily become an A if all of these players are starting and can be impactful. Then that's an A. But right now it's a B+. And the main reason is because of value. I think we did stretch for a couple of these guys. Do I think that the picks were bad? No. I think we could have got some more value. But like I said, if there was nobody wanting to trade up with us, then why risk it? Just take the guy you want and take all your picks. So let's see what happens today, guys. Go Raiders. Hopefully we get another star. We have 4 starting players in the top 35. Like I said, I hope Chase Winovich. I hope Irv Smith. Any cornerback really, Rock Ya-Sin, Byron Murphy, Greedy Williams, any of those guys I'd be happy with. Other than that, I really wouldn't like us to take anybody else. tight end, cornerback, or defensive end. That's who we need to target today, and then maybe trade up and get one of those other positions. Anyway, go Raiders. Go Raider Nation. I love you guys. Hopefully everybody likes these videos. Like, subscribe. Feel free to comment below. I'll see you guys tomorrow, and we'll talk about the second round.